bakit ayaw ko pa daw makipag-peace kay Rowena Guanzon. Sabihin ko sa inyo ha, sabi ko nga, politics is addition, tama yan. Pero, di ba dapat, sabi ko, yes, but not at the expense of principles. Ha? Hindi tayo pwedeng magtiwala sa kaalyado na para nagpapalit lang ng damit ang political stand. Kukunin mo yan ngayon dahil sip-sip sa'yo, ha? Hindi reliable yan. Hindi reliable yan. Bukas makalawa, iba na naman, kontra na naman sa iyon, parang si Rizzo Ontiveros. Kaya nga sabi ko doon sa Davao, nabudol na tayo kay Marcos, nabudol na tayo kay Rizzo Ontiveros. Huwag na tayong pabubudol ngayon sa mga ganyang taong. Pero inaway ko talaga. Oo, hinarap ko siya, sabi ko, ang kapal naman ng mukha mo. Pagkatapos ng lahat ng sinabi mo kay VP, darating ka rito. Wow naman. Mabait si VP actually, tinanggap siya, etc. Ako, hindi ako mabait, salbahe akong tao.
Pero sana isipin nila
kasi kailangan may prinsipyo, di ba? Reconciliation with principle. Otherwise, para tayo mga dilawan. Para tayong mga kumampi kay Marcos, babatikos kay Marcos, tinanggap ni Marcos, di ba? Walang prinsipyo, puro political necessity, puro political convenience. Hindi po tayo dapat ganyan. Dapat ngayon, bagong politika. Prinsipyo, hindi plastikan. So, yan ang reason kung bakit never na magkakasundo kami ni Rowena Guanzon, hindi ako nakipagsundo sa mga plastic. Etong dating Yusek yata ito, na si Marlon Purificacion, ano? Ewan ko kung kaninong bata ito. Yan po ay extortionist. Si Marlon Purificacion. Ngayon, nandito sa grupo namin, iintrigahin yung mga opisyal ng partido ko. Iintrigahin yung kasama naming si Jing Paras. Oo. Kasama pa dyan yung isa, yung dating undersecretary rin yata, yung babae, yung Pam, na kung ano-anong sinasabi, nang iintriga. Hindi pwede yung ganyan sa isang grupo.
Malungkot.
And I am warning these people. Hindi po, this is not the official party stand. I'm talking as an officer of the party. Huwag nyo pong papatulan ang mga kasamahan ko sa Partido Demokratiko Pilipino. Ako po ang makakalaban ninyo. Huwag nyong papatulan yung mga taong tumutulong, yung mga talagang sincere ang kanilang mga adikain na tumulong sa bayan, wala namang hinihing kapalit. Katulad ni Jing Paras. Huwag nyo pong gagawin yan. Ako po ang makakalaban ninyo kahit hindi nyo ako kinakalaban. Ngayon, kung kakalabanin nyo ako, labo-labo tayo. Hindi ko po kayo aatrasan. Ito nababahala lang ako. Kaya gusto kong ilabas dito. Kasi, may mga tao, alam mo, kaming mga grupo na ang habol namin ay accountability. Ay may grupo kami na parang koalisyon, maraming may PDP, may mga retired military, etc. Mga groups na in opposition to the present government dahil nga sa mga anomalyang nakikita namin. Ang problema, eto na naman, nandito na naman tayo sa talangka mentality ng mga Pilipino na dapat itanggalin natin.
Yeah,
may mga personalities dun sa grupo na parang ayaw magkaisa yung grupo at sowing intrigue. Nang iintriga dun sa mga kapwa niya kasamahan.
Mali.
Sa halip na ang tirahin nila yung flood control, yung rising prices, yung palpak na ating foreign policy, etc., etc., tinitira yung kasamahan nila. Oo. Ewan ko, etong dating Yusek yata ito, na si Marlon Purificacion, ano? Ewan ko kung kaninong bata ito, na vlog ng vlog, tinitira yung ibang mga opisyal ng Partido Demokratiko Pilipino. Gayong kasama po namin ito. Kasama. Magkakasama po tayo. Para malaman nyo kung sino si Marlon Purificacion. Ewan ko ba kung bakit naging Yusek ito. Ito ay isang journalist daw. Okay. Many years ago, hahanapin ko yung dokumento, and this is documented. Bahala siya kung demanda niya ako ng libel, pakikita ko yung pruweba. Yan ay na entrapment operation sa Manila Hotel. Bakit? Dahil nang i-extort, nangingikil sa isang Colonel Emma Libunaw na noon ay nasa CIDG. Ito ang ginawa niya. Tinira niya ng tinira na di umano'y protector daw ng nightclub doon si Colonel Emma Libunaw. Kaibigan ko yan. Matinong pulis yan. Napakatino. Very straight. Lumapit sa akin, bakit naman ako ginaganito? Wala naman akong kinalaman dyan. Sabi ko, sige, hahadapin ko yung mga sources ko sa media. Tatanong ko, ano bang problema? Ang problema pala ay napakasimple lang. Gusto lang kumuha ng kwarta.
Ala, siya.
So, anong nangyari? Tinagpo namin sa Manila Hotel si Marlon Purificacion.
Nagkita kayo?
Nagkita sila ni Colonel Libunaw.
Okay.
Binigyan siya ng 40 pesos. Ay, 40,000 pesos.
Wow.
40,000 pesos. Kunyari, para suhol. Ang hindi niya alam, entrapment na pala yun. Meron ng marked money na yun.
Opo.
Meron na yun yung fluorescent powder.
Okay.
Oo. Pagkatapos noon, pumunta siya sa CR, dinampot siya ng CIDG at dinala sa krame for extortion. Okay. Kanya lang, yung kanyang padrino na si Benny Antiporda, na naging opisyal din ng gobyerno, nakiusap, inarbor siya. Eh sabi ko, nung tumatawag sa akin si Benny, wag sa akin. Ako'y abogado lang, doon kayo makipag-usap sa complainant. May mabuting puso itong si Emma Libunaw. Pinatawad nung inarbor ni Benny Antiporda. Yan po ay facts. Hindi nyo po pwedeng baguhin yan. Yan ay dokumentado. Hindi po paninirang puri yan. Dapat malaman natin because these people are public figures. Dapat natin malaman ang karakter niyan. Yan po ay extortionist. Si Marlon Purificacion. Ngayon, nandito sa grupo namin, iintrigahin yung mga opisyal ng partido ko. Iintrigahin yung kasama naming si Jing Paras. Oo. Kasama pa dyan yung isa, yung dating undersecretary rin yata, yung babae, yung Pam, na kung ano-anong sinasabi. Bakit ka magsasama sa isang dapat ay coalition na may common objective ng transparency and accountability? Ngayon, magsosow ka ng intrigue. Mang-iintriga ka. Gusto mo mag-away-away doon. Napakasama po. So, alam nyo, kagganyan po tayo, at iba-ibang mga characters na may questionable mga background ang isinasama dyan, wala pong mangyayari sa atin. Wala mangyayari sa ating bayan. Hindi pwede yung ganyan sa isang grupo.
Malungkot.
And I am warning these people. Hindi po, this is not the official party stand. I'm talking as an officer of the party. Huwag niyo pong papatulan ang mga kasamahan ko sa Partido Demokratiko Pilipino. Ako po ang makakalaban ninyo. Huwag niyong papatulan yung mga taong tumutulong, yung mga talagang sincere ang kanilang mga adikain na tumulong sa bayan, wala namang hinihing kapalit. Katulad ni Jing Paras, huwag niyo pong gagawin yan. Ako po ang makakalaban ninyo kahit hindi niyo ako kinakalaban. Ngayon, kung kakalabanin niyo ako, labo-labo tayo. Hindi ko po kayo aatrasan. Please do not do that. Tumigil na po kayo. Nakakatalangka po kayo, mga kasama ko, Oo. Alam ko naman, ang mga tao na yung inyong mga principal ay may mga ulterior motive. Gustong magbangong puri, gustong i-rehabilitate ang kanilang imahen, gustong tumakbo. Pwede naman po lahat tumakbo. Di tumakbo kayo kung gusto nyo. Well, huwag kayong naninira. Lalo na yung intriga. Intriga, di ba? Wala pong kwenta yun. Okay? So, yan po ang uri ng mga tao na ngayon ay naghahasik ng pagkakabaha-bahagi dito sa mga grupo na maganda naman ang adhikain. Okay, oo.
Katakot naman yan. Pero kung nangungulekta yan ng kapalit na pera dun sa...
Oo, documented yan. Nasa
Bakit
akin.
naman
Ng dokumento.
yun?
Sige.
Ako rin, attorney, gusto ko lang i-correct, no? Yung Joey De Guzman, na merong problema yata dun sa ibang mga media friends natin, Joey De Guzman is different from Juvie De Guzman. Napagkakamalan na ako daw.
Eh, baka naman may alter ego ka.
Hindi, nagkakamali yung tenga, yung po, pandinig.
Parang
Sa pandinig. Hindi,
parang halimbawa, di ba? Di ba?
Nagiging mistake tuloy. Kaya akala nila ako yun kasi sounds like.
Okay.
Sounds like.
Hindi ba parang Joey by day, Joy by night?
Hindi, nag-sorry naman po si tita. Sabi niya, Job, mali. Hindi pala Juvie, kundi Joey De Guzman.
Lalaki yun?
Lalaki yun.
Hindi mo pagkakawalan.
Mukha ba akong lalaki? Iyakan na
pero
naman
mga
siya,
babaeng mukhang lalaki.
Aray ko.
Sasabihin ko sino. Macho, babae, pero macho, di ba?
Hindi, minsan attorney, nakakaano rin yung bigla kang... Ang masama nun yung babae na biglang tumawag sa kanya, nagkwento ka agad, na akala ako nga yun.
Tignan muna nila.
Oo, yun. Tapos kinurek ako, syempre isang araw ako nag-iisip, bakit nagkaganon? Wala akong napunta doon. Tapos sasabihin, ay Joby, hindi pala ikaw. Kapangalan mo lang, pero Joey pala yun, hindi pala Joby.
Para hindi ka mapagkamalang lalaki kasi, sinasabi ko na sa iyo, ilugay mo palagi yung buhok mo, mas bagay. Oo.
Ito, tinira na naman ako.
Hindi, kasi actually, may mga iba-ibang personalidad yung mga tao eh. Dapat, alam mo, dapat ang karakter mo isa lang. May matuwa sa'yo, mabwisit sa'yo, dapat yung prinsipyo mo isa lang.
Isa lang.
Oo. Huwag kang maging Rowena Guanzon.
Dilaw
na dilaw, pinklawan na pinklawan. Lenny. Okay. Di natalo si Lenny. Pero nanalo yung kanyang party list. Pero, noong nagka-eleksyon, hindi pa siya nagre-retiro sa gobyerno. Nung ginawa yung party list na yun, at sinumite yung nominee. Alam mo, 1 week after na idideklara yung napanalo yung party list na yun, pinag-resign niya lahat ng mga nominees. 5 yan eh. 5 ang nominees under the law. Pinag-resign niya, nilagay niya sarili niya. Which is in violation of the Party List Act at ibang mga jurisprudence, mga desisyon ng Korte Suprema. So, ang nangyari, sa kagustuhan niya maging congresswoman, di inapprove ng COMELEC. Umakyat po kami ni Chairman Ronald Cardema na siyang pinuno rin ng Duterte Youth Party List sa Korte Suprema para questionin. Okay. Pero kita nyo, ang karakter nitong tao to, Lenny yan, ano? Lenny. Mura ng mura kay Marcos. Pero nung akala niya siya ay magiging congresswoman, umattend ng party, di nagtawag ng party si dating speaker, Romualdez, para sa mga incoming na mga congressmen. Dumalo siya. Namamayag pag siya ron, magiging congresswoman ako. Alam mo, di ba, mura siya ng mura kay Marcos. Kung anong sinasabi niyang adik, bangag. Anong unang-una niyang ginawa pagdating niya ron sa party? Nagpakuha ng litrato kasama si Sandro Marcos. Oo, nandyan. Meron tayong konti. Nagpakuha ng litrato kasama si Martin Romualdez. So, bintad na. Okay, yan. So, ano na siya? Chami-chami niya siya sa mga Marcos. Hindi niya inaasahan na si Ronald Cardema at si Ferdy Topacio ang magiging malaking hadlang sa kanyang pangarap na maging congresswoman noong June 29. One day bago dapat siyang manumpa bilang congresswoman, mga 4 p.m., lumabas sa balita sa radyo, tiniaro siya ng Korte Suprema. Sabi, hindi ka pwedeng umupo. Hindi ka bote, galit na galit siya. Nagpalabas siya ng pahayag na wala nang jurisdiksyon ng Korte Suprema, bla bla bla, nakasumpa na ako, etc. etc. Sabi ng Korte Suprema, ganun bakit mo kami binabastos? Paliwanag mo. Give us a reason, show cause why you should not be sanctioned. Kung bakit hindi ka dapat parusahan. Pinangungunahan mo kami. Yan ang sinasabi kong pinangungunahan ang Korte Suprema. Kabastusan po yung kalapastanganan sa kataas-taasang hukuman. Di nag-hearing.
Opo.
Pag-hearing, talo siya. Sabi ng Suprema, yung pagka-substitute mo na nominee ay illegal. And therefore, walang visa. 2025 ka na lang. Okay. Di ba?
Naman.
So, lumaban siya ng 2025. Nung lumaban siya ng 2025, anti-Duterte siya. Natatandaan nyo, 2016, eto may video akong nahanap. Sinasabihan niya si Tatay Digong, "Uy, ikaw, sira ulo mo. Magpa-examine ka ng utak." Oo, ito, may video ko ngayon. Ito, nandito sa cellphone ko. Huwag niyang itatanggi.
Okay.
Sabi ni Pangulong Duterte, ikaw rin, magpa-check up ka. Mas luko-luko ka eh. Oh, parang gano'n, ano? Oh. Anti-Duterte pa rin siya noon. At bigla siya naging anti-Marcos. Yun ang nung sinasabi niya sa confidential funds ni Sara. 2025, sinisiraan pa niya. Pati si Robin Padilla, sinisiraan niya. Tinawag niyang low IQ. Oo. Ano pa rin siya? Kalaban pa rin siya ng mga Duterte. Ano nangyari ng 2025? Akala niya kasi mapapanalo siya ng boto ng mga dilawan at mga pinklawan. Yan. Ano nangyari? Olats.
Lipat na naman.
Olats. Talo. Okay. Then nakita niya na yung mga dating kasama niyang anti-Marcos. Marcos na lahat. Sina De Lima, di ba? Sumali na. Nakipag-gano na yung Makabayad Block. Di ba?
Lumipat na naman.
Wala na siyang kasama. Naku. At hindi na popular si Marcos. Noong 2025, anong ginawa? Wow, sip-sip kay Sara. Pinakamagaling na tao si Sara. Yung tinawag niyang Fiona, magnanakaw, hindi Disney princess, inintriga pa niya na yung Commonwealth daw ay sinarhan yung kalahati para makadaan si Sara, was then mayor, hindi naman totoo. Kung ano noon sinabi niya kay Pangulong Digong, wala na, iba na ang ihip ng hangin para sa kanya. Okay, yan ang mabigat. Dahil popular si Sara Duterte. Bago, kaya nga sabi ko sa mga DDS, wag po tayong magpabudol. Nabudol na tayo kay Marcos. Nabudol na tayo kay Rizon Tiveros, nagpa-endorso kay Sara para manalo. Hindi ba dapat mananalo yung si Riza? Anong ginawa? Di ba tinarantado si Sara Duterte? Pagkatapos siyang panalunin ni Sara Duterte, inendorso siya, kaya nakuha niya yung boto ng Mindanao. Baka babudol na naman tayo. Yun mga nagsasabing DDS. Sir, batiin nyo na. Politics is addition, may maitutulong yan. May mga followers yan. I-analyze yung mabuti. Hindi nga nanalo yan, party list lang. Anong followers niyan? Alam nyo kung bakit maraming followers si Rowena Guanzon ngayon? Dahil siya ay sumakay sa bandwagon ni Sara. Ang ibig ko sabihin, yung followers niya ngayon, hindi niya followers yung dati. Followers lang niya yon kasi Sara Duterte siya. May mga naniniwala, wag po kayong maniwala. Alam nyo, totoo, politics is addition, mga kasama. Pero, addition, yan, di ba? Di ba sabi, the more the merrier. Pero, not at the expense of principle. Not at the expense of principle. Kung tayo ay kukunin na lang natin lahat na nagsasabing, "Oy, ako'y sa'yo, kakampi ako, nilipat na ako sa'yo." Wala na tayong pinagkaiba sa grupo ng mga Marcos na lahat na lang welcome. Kahit kalaban dati. Unprincipled po yun. Dadami kayo, pero ang mga kasama nyo, unreliable. Diba? Dapat may prinsipyo. Kung tatanggapin nyo yan na dati, Lenny, dumikit sa mga Marcos, so akala niya magko-congressman siya, nagalit kina Marcos, hindi siya nakaupo, nag-party list, tinitira pa rin si Sara Duterte, hindi na nanalo, nag-Sara Duterte. Pag kanya ng tao na ang kanyang prinsipyo ay parang damit lang na papalitan niya araw-araw, walang kwentang kakampiyan. Pagka nakuha na niya ng gusto niya, halimbawa, dahil kasasakay niya kay Sara Duterte, naging senador yan. Di ba?
Baka yan din lumaglag sa kanya.
Oo, yan din ang lalaglag sa'yo. Walang loyalty yan. Walang kwenta yung ganyan na kakampi.
Yun ang nakakatakot.
Yan ang difference between girlfriend mo, mahal ka, at bayarang babae. mahal ka lang pag may pakinabang sa'yo.
Pag may pera ka.
Makakasiguro ka na bukas makalawa, wala ka ng pera.
Iiwan ka na.
Iwanan ka na, sasama na sa ibang lalaki. O, yan po.
Aray ko,
Comparison
marami yan.
Mga kasama.
Ayan.
Oo.
Talo tayo dyan, pag ganyan.
Kaya nga oo.
Tama ka, Atty.
O, kaya
Tama yan.
mag-isip-isip po tayo mga DDS. Huwag na tayong pabubudol muli. Lagi tayong nabubuduli. Kay Risa lang, di ba? O, kailangan
Pero
mo
Tony, sa
magpa-endorse
akin,
ka.
sa akin huwag kang magalit. Kasi pag tinatanong ako, Juby, kanino ka ba talaga? Sabi ko, doon ako sa mananalo.
Ay, di kahit manalo, ang loyalty ay manalo,
Matalo. Ayun.
mapahamak ka, mabash ka,
Okay.
mawalan ka ng hanap buhay,
Okay.
doon ka.
Mm.
Yun. Ang tawag doon ay loyalty, principle, and consistency.
Yun.
Hindi pwedeng transactional ang politika.
No,
Hindi
tama.
pwede. Okay. There are some things that cannot be taken back.
Pag nawala na is
So,
wala na.
parang may mga kasalanan na pwede mong patawaran, pero yung consistent na kung ano-anong sinasabi sa'yo,
Opo.
you cannot take that back.
Bagay.
At saka yung demonstrable na unreliability at yung demonstrable ng lack of loyalty, hindi po dapat pagtiwalaan yung mga taong yan.
Dapat malaman din nila yan.
Di ba sabi ni General Luna doon sa pelikula niya, para kayong mga birhen na naniniwala sa pagmamahal ng isang o di ba? Isang o di ba? O, ganun po yun. Last day yata ngayon ng Independent Commission on Infrastructure.
Wala na.
Pero alam mo kung ito ang dapat nating malaman.
Opo.
Baka nakakalimutan natin yung floodgate. Yung flood control scam.
Opo.
Kaya floodgate, Watergate. So lahat ngayon may gate. Floodgate. Kasi nagrereklamo itong si Representative Lian Leviste. Na last day yata ngayon ng Independent Commission on Infrastructure.
Wala na.
Pero alam mo kung ano nangyari?
Anyari?
Waling. Di ba? Anong nangyari? Nagsumiti daw. Pumunta pala kahapon si Lian Leviste sa tanggapan ng ICI kahapon.
Opo.
At siya ay sinabihan na sinabitin na po namin sa presidente. Sabi niya, nasaan? Nasaan? Wala po. Confidential.
Ala.
Ano yun? Yun ang nirereklamo ni Congressman Lian Leviste. Bakit ganon? Hindi lamang po naman pumunta si Congressman Leviste ron para mag-osyoso.
Opo.
Pumunta rin siya para makita kung anong mangyayari.
Anong resulta?
Hindi, yung mangyayari sa mga empleyado. Kasi siyempre tapos na. End of the month. Kahapon, 31.
Opo.
Kung ano daw maitutulong niya kasi wala na daw trabaho yung mga empleyado ng ICI. Umpisa ngayon kasi tapos na yung ICI .
Opo.
Pero hindi siya binigyan ng kopya ng report. Pinadala sa Malacanang. Anong klase yan? Bakit ayaw ibigay? Di ba dapat yan public funds ang ginamit yan? Yan ang investigasyon sa isang malaking scam.
Opo.
Graft and corruption. Bakit ayaw ibahagi? Anong tinatago ng ICI? Yan ang sinasabi namin na kamoting kahoy ang ICI at wala tayong mapapala dyan.
Aray ko.
Yun ang kamote.
Yun na.
Kaya, yun. Wala na namang nangyari.
Baka magkaroon na, attorney, yung ICI 2.
Wala na yun.
Wala na yun.
Wala na yun.
May 1, 2, 3 pala.
Ito na tayo pagka naniwala pa sa ICI 2. Uto-uto na tayo.
He was suspended twice at the House of Representatives. The first time was due to his offensive and malicious social media posts. A few days after the suspension ended, Cavite 4th District Representative Kiko Barzaga was suspended again. This time for alleging that ultra-billionario Enrique Razon bribed National Unity Party members to support Martin Romualdez' re-election bid as House Speaker. Will he finally return to the lower chamber, or will he be sanctioned again? We'll get the answer from the man himself and also get his thoughts on other political issues. Joining us today is Congressman Kiko Barzaga. Good morning, Congressman Kiko.
Good morning.
Okay, so yung may meow talaga.
Yes, yung trademark ko na yan. Kailangan ko mag-meow-meow every time.
Oo, dapat may translator tayo kung anong ibig sabihin ng mga meow-meow, no? So let's start. You were suspended in December 2025 for 60 days. Nung babalik ka na, that was another 60 days suspension, are you confident that you can finally return to the House of Representatives this coming April? O meron bang risks na meron na namang magsususpend sa'yo?
Well, this April, the House is still on break, so the earliest possible time would be the first week of May. And we'll still see. There's plenty of things developing, especially with the war and the economic crisis going on. So there are multiple things that they have to balance within the House, and we will see how much they will prioritize my future suspension.
In the past, you have implied that your suspension is linked to your criticisms of the administration of President Bongbong Marcos. Do you still believe that?
Well, it's not just whether or not I believe it. It's actually something that's true. Because we've seen other congressmen, even recently, do far worse things than me that do not face any problems within the Ethics Committee. I mean, just around 2 months ago, we've seen the video of Congressman Richard Gomez when he assaulted a senior citizen in the 2025 SEA Games.
And you believe... Yung ba
Yeah, there
wala
are no
bang
complaints regarding that.
Oo, wala bang naging penalty yun?
No, there was no penalty.
Okay, baka naman merong parating or wala talaga?
No. Because my case took about a month or so, and it's been over 2 months for his.
Should you face another suspension, are you exploring legal remedies in order to get back to Congress?
Well, that's a secret. I might be exploring legal remedies now, but it's better for me not to reveal everything yet.
Under our Constitution, there are also penalties like expulsion from the House of Representatives. Do you fear that there's a possibility that you may be expelled from the 20th Congress if they reach like a 2/3 vote?
Well, that is a possibility, but at the same time, what do you fear more? The possibility of being expelled or the possibility of allowing the corruption to continue? Because right now, we are seeing the effects of the government's corruption at play here. And we can already see the negative effects it has on our economy. Back then, last year in 2025, we already have massive economic problems due to the decrease in foreign direct investments, the massive protests, decreasing people's trust in our government, and now it is also happening at the same time as a geopolitical crisis where there is a war that is cutting out the fuel supply from the Middle East. And even during times of peace, we already had an unstable economy. Further, it's much worse now. And being silent, in spite of all of that, is much worse than being expelled.
So you don't mind all these sanctions in spite of the fact that you might be facing further sanctions, you'll continue to speak out against the administration?
Because if you don't speak out, then who will? The people voted for me, and the people supported me because they knew that I would be given the voice to represent them in speaking out against the corruption, speaking out against the economic policies that's causing them to be unable to handle the increasing prices of fuel and basic commodities.
I've seen some of your vlogs and sometimes nandun ka sa floor and you still vlog at parang yung ibang mga colleagues mo sa House of Representatives parang nasistress pag vlog mo sila or sinasama mo sa vlog. When you get back to Congress after your suspension, do you plan to continue vlogging or is there anything that you will do differently?
Well, maybe. We'll see. We don't know yet. Maybe by May, Congress would have changed. Maybe there's a change in leadership that's more favorable to me. Maybe we'll be in World War III. Maybe that's a definite possibility because there are already reports of Russia helping Iran and China starting to encircle Taiwan. So there's a possibility that we might be in a state of war by May. There's many ways that this situation could develop, and there are many possibilities that could happen that would make me unable to accurately comment on that.
Okay. And meron ding mga nag-file ng cyber libel complaints against you after you said that businessman Enrique Razon bribed other members of the House of Representatives to re-elect or to support former Speaker Martin Romualdez in his speakership. What are the status of those complaints?
Well, I haven't seen yet. We already filed our counter affidavits regarding those. And it's a very surprising thing because if it actually goes to court, then that would lead to trial, and I already have the evidence either way. So we'll see what happens.
So wala pang resolution sa Office of the Prosecutor. Have
But
you spoken?
We've already prepared legal plans. Actually, plenty of lawyers expressed their support to me to actually do it free of charge, so I can save up some legal fees, because some of the congressmen also made some enemies with the legal system there. Some people have personal conflicts against Mr. Razon, so we'll see.
May mga tumutulong sa'yo. So hindi ka naman bugbog when it comes to patong-patong na legal fees.
No, because also regarding the cyber libel cases, it's very hard to prove, and it's a long process, and eventually I'll have more and more allies along the way.
And you previously issued a public apology to billionaire Enrique Razon. Have you been able to speak to him personally?
No, I haven't been speaking to him. I believe the first time we'll be speaking is through court mediation. But yes, that was in regard of a separate matter. I still fully expect the case to go through, and because when you're a billionaire, you can't just allow these things to slide. You have to keep pushing for these cases. You can't just file a case and then retract it. So at the same time, we have to consider those truths of the matter, that whatever our personal beliefs is, or whatever the situation is, that, or whatever our however we like this situation to go, the reality is that it has already started. And whether or not this has come from a legitimate concern or a legitimate issue, or from a misunderstanding, that the case has already been filed, and we will inevitably have to face each other in court. So that's what we're preparing for.
And from your end, do you stand by the sources that made you say that publicly in terms of the allegation ng bribery from Enrique Razon to other members of the House of Representatives?
Well, it's only if necessary. If I have to prove it in court in order to defend myself, then I am willing to do so.
Okay. Will you also apologize to the National Unity Party? You ended up leaving your party and becoming independent.
No, it all started with Kong Puno, so I'm not apologizing to him.
Okay. In November 2025, the CIDG also filed complaints of inciting to sedition and inciting to rebellion against you that stemmed from events that happened during the September rallies last year. What are the status of those complaints?
I believe those were dismissed already. The
Okay,
sedition is
so na-dismiss na.
it's a very serious case, and one that's very hard to prove.
Okay, so you don't regret, the events that happened back in September?
I mean, if I would regret, they would have not done it in the first place. I'm more surprised at the other congressmen not regretting that they chose to be silent in the face of one of the greatest corruption issues in our nation's history.
Back in 2025, there were reports that you intended to replace Martin Romualdez as Speaker. Was that true? And totoo rin ba yung sinabi ni Deputy Speaker Janet Garin that you have your own independent group called the Meow Block? But before I answer this question, we'll have to take a short break. At the forefront, we'll be right back. We continue our conversation with Cavite 4th District Representative Kiko Barzaga. Congressman Kiko, back in 2025, there were reports that you wanted to replace Martin Romualdez as Speaker. At sabi rin ni Deputy Speaker Janet Garin that you have your own independent group called the Meow Block. Are these true?
Well, firstly, everyone wants to replace the Speaker. That's why he was removed. But yeah, everyone wants to be Speaker as well, because everyone has their own views of how the country should be run and what would be the best for our nation. So yes, the first thing is true. I wanted to replace the Speaker at the time. And secondly, the Meow Block, that's true to some degree. We're not officially called the Meow Block, but yes, I have gathered a few allies in Congress.
Can you care to name who
It's a secret.
Secret ba yun? Okay. Pero may mga nagtatanong kung close kayo ni Congressman Leandro Levisa, because you're both very young, and ang perception is you're mga brilliant young men in Congress. Are you close friends?
Well, we've met a few times, but we're not really to the point that we can say we're close. But yeah, he's one of the few congressmen that I actually agree with.
So, masasabi mo ba kung member siya ng Meow Block?
Not necessarily.
Okay. Sige, so mystery sa amin yan kung sino yung mga members. But there was also a report back in September 2025 that you admitted plotting a coup against Speaker Boji D. And you also publicly endorsed si Navota's representative Toby Tiangco to be the speaker. Totoo ba yung coup attempt na yun? And were you able to gather some support for that to happen?
I mean, like, I plot a coup against the speaker all the time. So I plot a coup against Romualdez, against Boji D. The one against Romualdez, that only started after I was betrayed by my party. Before then, I was very silent on the matter. So I was not planning a coup by then. But afterwards, during at least a week before Romualdez resigned, that's when I started the call for investigation to his involvement in the flood control anomalies. That's when I started trying to get support against him.
And kung babalik ka, I mean, you're going back soon, in a few weeks, may isip mo pa rin ba magka-coup plots against Speaker Boji D?
That depends on the scenario by May. Because it's a very chaotic scenario. Like, if you just look at our public transportation sector, it's practically in chaos right now. And once the public transportation sector if it collapses, then that also goes our education sector, because plenty of students also rely on public transportation in order to go to school. Plenty of workers rely on public transportation. So whether or not that will be the case, or that the House will have a change of leadership by itself on May, or maybe even though there might be people power already by May, we will still have to wait and see, because we don't know how the situation will develop. And this is one of the most rapidly escalating tensions in the Middle East that we've seen recently, and how it affects us, even though we're practically almost halfway across the globe from it, is very impactful.
How would you assess the performance of Speaker Boji D so far?
Oh, he has no notable achievements, which is surprising for someone who's been speaker for about 6 months. Like, nothing has changed, and they always have stated their plans to change things, yet nothing's actually forming. We have no change in our economic policies, in our taxation policies. They have an anti-dynasty bill, but Boji D himself is part of a political dynasty, so it'd be hard for him to lobby for that. So there are multiple aspects of this that can gauge the success of the speakership and Congress. And in those aspects, I can't really say that he's very successful.
Well, since you entertained the thought before of being speaker, what would you have done differently, especially since we're facing this crisis right now, if you were the Speaker of the House?
I already said what I would have done, not even as a speaker, but as an actual congressman, and the change that I'm lobbying for, which is the removal of value-added taxation in all fuel products. Because the value-added taxation increases because it's a percentage rate. It's 12%. So, for example, you're paying 50 pesos for gasoline, for a liter of gasoline. Then you're paying 6 pesos there. But if it increases to 100 pesos, you're paying 12 pesos each.
Yeah. Oo. So palaki rin ang palaki yung binabayad
Yes.
namin, and malaki rin nakukolekta ng government. You did file, or you authored a bill that wanted to scrap the imposition of 12% VAT on all goods. What is the status of that? Meron bang nakuhang support from Senate, and may movement na ba?
Well, it will possibly bankrupt the government, so I don't think they'll be supporting that.
And under your proposed bill, the adoption of a progressive wealth tax on ultra high net worth individuals was also mentioned there. But now, economist and former NEDA Secretary Winnie Monsud also is proposing something similar to that, like taxing the 50 wealthiest billionaires in the country to help us, have a fund to mitigate the effects of this crisis. Do you agree with that?
Yes. In terms of policy, yes. But in terms of whether or not it would be applicable or whether it would be possible, that's very unlikely, because a lot of these top 50 wealthy billionaires, they have people that are close to them. They have people that they are capable of instructing within Congress and within the Senate that would choose not to support that tax, instead allocate the tax to the poor instead. And it's that form of support that they gave to those congressmen during times of election or during their campaigns that would stop them from supporting such a bill, even though it would be to the benefit of the majority of the Filipino people.
Okay. Another event that's going on in the House of Representatives right now is the impeachment of Vice President Sara Duterte. What can you say about the impeachment process so far, based on your observation on how the House Justice Committee is conducting this?
From my perspective, and that's someone who's not in the House now because I haven't been there for the past almost 4 months, it seems kind of pointless. Because for the impeachment, you only need 1/3 of Congress, right? Getting 106 votes shouldn't be too hard for them. It's harder now than it was last year because we're getting closer to the 2028 elections, and Vice President Duterte is still the front runner, and that's basically said by practically everyone. Even the administration does not deny that Vice President Duterte is very popular, and that voting yes towards the impeachment would be detrimental to their future campaigns. And secondly, is the issue regarding the Senate. It's not 1/3, but they need a 2/3 vote in the Senate in order to pass that. And I don't really see them getting those numbers in the Senate, especially considering that the impeachment is a long process. So after the Senate trial voting would estimate that if they try to rush it as much as possible, and if the situation does not escalate in the Middle East, that would lead to further delays. They might do it by near the end of the year, and by then it will be very, very close to the 2028 elections, and the senators will be cautious in making such a radical notion that they would vote yes to impeaching the highest voted official in Philippine history.
Okay, so you're saying that it's a waste of time just because you don't see the impeachment gathering enough votes in Senate especially.
Yes, because they're not going to risk 5 to 10 million votes in the upcoming elections just in order to give a yes vote for the impeachment.
So Malutikia, political analyst Malutikia said that VP Sara's impeachment should be set aside for now and the government should focus on helping the people cope with the oil crisis. Do you agree with this?
I agree with it in some parts, but at the same time, what exactly can the government do if it does not do the impeachment? I mean, the oil crisis is... The government's already in crisis even before the whole fuel crisis has started. So, focusing on that would not actually... From the administration's point of view, focusing on that would not actually solve anything because they're already out of options. There are plenty of economic issues that existed before the crisis started, and now that it has started and it has begun, and we're already in the middle of the situation, we no longer have the necessary tools in order to combat this. It's like, for example, if you're to... What sports do you do?
Ako, I play pickleball, I scuba dive, scuba diving.
Okay, wala akong alam doon. But for example, chess or boxing. Sige, chess muna. You're down multiple pieces. Your opponent has a large material advantage over you. There are very few options that you have at that point compared to a point where the game is just starting and you are similar in material. Or for example, in boxing, where you're already in the ring against a much more prepared and much stronger opponent, you would have very limited options. And that's what we're seeing now. The government has very limited options because the times where it should be preparing for a crisis, which is in 2025, 2024, 2023, and the start of the administration, it has not done so. There's the Maharlika Investment Fund. It hasn't done anything. There's the selling of our gold reserves. Those were still unexplained. We still don't know what happened with that. And there's the catastrophic 2025 midterm elections. There's the decrease in foreign direct investments due to the massive corruption issues. And all of these are adding up. And it's also limiting the options possible within the government. Because now because of former President Duterte's arrest, they're now facing plenty of internal conflicts as well.
So you're saying that when kulang na options, parang they have no other option but to try to impeach Vice President Sara? Is that your point?
No, it's not related. It's not exactly with the impeachment, but rather what options we can make against the current issues that we're facing in the oil crisis.
That's why you're not equating, like, it's not like pag matanggal yung attention sa impeachment, it's not like we have a lot of options anyway to deal with the oil crisis.
It's not that they can do the impeachment and the fuel crisis at the same time. It's that they have to do the impeachment now because they imprisoned former President Duterte. So now the Duterte administration is an existential threat to the Marcos administration. The possible future of a Duterte administration is an existential threat to the Marcos administration. And they would not have to balance these two things if they didn't cause the imprisonment of former President Duterte. And that led to the loss of the midterm elections, where multiple opposition candidates, 5 of the Duterte candidates, were able to make it within the Senate. So now they are also facing any possible Senate coup attempts. They have to prepare for so many different problems right now instead of being able to focus during the current problem. Like if we compare to former President Duterte's time, where he was capable of fighting against the pandemic because he did not have to deal with catastrophic midterm results or plenty of issues involving the economy a year before the pandemic started. We already had plenty of economic issues before and plenty of large-scale protests. There were hundreds of thousands, possibly even 1 million people marching on the streets last year due to the massive flood control scandals. And we didn't have that before the pandemic time, which is why we were able to handle it.
As an insider, are you aware kung meron bang hold accountable for the flood control scandal? There were a lot of congressmen that were mentioned during the Blue Ribbon Committee hearings, but it's been very quiet. And, you know, for us observers, hindi namin alam kung meron bang hold accountable from the House of Representatives.
From my perspective, I wouldn't expect anything. Because as we've seen, even with the ICI, we spent millions allocated budget for the ICI, and they have not actually done anything. Like they had hearings, they had investigations, but all of those were closed doors because every congressman was given the opportunity to choose a private investigation instead, and that's what everyone chose. So the ICI was not able to do anything. There's been no results from that, so I don't think anyone's going to be imprisoned for the flood control anomalies. It's very unlikely.
Parang malungkot yan for people who want accountability. But thank you so much, Congressman Kiko.
Thank you.
You're not going away kasi pag-uusapan pa natin sa part 2 of our interview more about your personal life naman. Good morning, Kong Kiko. Kailangan ko ng subtitles at translation. Okay, so Kiko, you're famously known as Kong Meow. Bakit ba mahilig ka sa cats? Why do you love cats?
Sa cute sila at nagbameow-meow.
That's it? Kinakausap mo ba ang mga pet cats mo?
I talk to them more than people.
Talagang naiintindihan mo sila?
Hindi.
Hindi.
I mean, pusa sila, so they don't really speak. So hindi ko sila maintindihan. Because they do not have the same language as us.
But when you do meow meow or say meow meow sa Congress, meron ba talagang words in your head, or you just do that for fun or to mock people, or anong reason ng pagma-meow meow mo?
Well, it's not necessarily that I do it in Congress, it's that I do it everywhere, and Congress is just part of that everywhere which I do it in. So it's not, hindi lang naman sa Congress ko ginagawa yun. Actually, I meow more in private and in settings outside of Congress. In Congress, I try to be more professional. Pero nag-meow-meow pa rin ako doon.
Okay. And anong reaction ng mga friends mo when you meow-meow? Hindi ba sila nawiwirdohan? Have they given you feedback on when you do that?
I mean, it's normal. Congress has plenty of interesting people already. So, okay lang naman yun. It's not, at least hindi ako yung like nagnako ng hundreds of billions or yung mga may kaso murder, rape, yung mga ganon. So the meowing is ultimately harmless.
Yeah, and it is, it is very harmless. Nakakatuwa lang kasi kakaiba talaga siya. You're the first person, I think, ever that
to
does
meow?
the meow-meow. Oo naman. Sino pa ba? May mga
nag-meow-meow pero
ba?
hindi lang sila mga national figures. Mga tao lang, mga normal citizens sila, meow-meow, mahilig sa mga pusa.
So meron ka rin kasama pala. Okay, what was it
yung
like?
iba, pag meow-meowan ko sila, sasabi nila mahilig na sila sa pusa, tapos meow-meow din sila.
At nagkakaintindihan naman kayo.
I mean, no, pero
No, okay.
it's the thought that counts and that's what matters.
Okay, and You grew up in a family of politicians. When you were born, your father was a municipal mayor, your mother was a councilor, and you were named after your great-grandfather, Francisco
Yes,
Barzaga,
who was also a mayor.
yeah, and he was what they call the municipal president of Dasmariñas in the
Yes.
1900s.
He was also part of the KKK, everything.
Naging part pa siya ng
Yeah, it was
KKK.
during the revolution.
Wow.
So after the revolution, he was appointed as
Oo nga, no? 1900s,
the
shortly
municipal
after
treasurer
the...
and then the mayor.
Yeah, so shortly after our freedom from the Spanish colonization.
Yes.
So what was that like growing up in a family of politicians? And did that influence your desire to be in politics?
Kind of. It's similar to growing up in a family of doctors where you would want to work in the medical field, or a family of businessmen where would you want to start your own business or continue the family business. It's similar to that.
Okay.
It's inevitable for a child to eventually want to follow in their parents' footsteps. And that's just a pattern that we see in society every time.
Back in 2025, when you won, senatorial candidate Luke Espiritu said that you only won because you were part of a political family. In your honest assessment, would you be where you are today without your surname?
Well, without my surname, it would be very difficult since you can't really run without a surname.
No, being
It's
a
a part of the
Barzaga.
registration.
And being a Barzaga and, having that political pedigree.
Well, that's impossible to hypothesize because my whole life I was already living under the assumption that I already have my surname. So, would I be living under a different family or under a different surname?
Oo, so kunwari hindi ka galing sa political family at tumakbo ka sa Cavite, do you think you'd have the same chances of winning?
No. But at the same time, if I was not living in a political family, I might not even run. I might not have even pursued candidacy in the first place. So it's a very impossible hypothetical scenario because it's like saying that if you had different circumstances of birth, you would pursue a different path in life. I mean, yeah, that's definitely true. That's one of the most obvious things in the world, that your circumstances at birth would ultimately lead to what you would be in the future.
Oh, so I get what you're saying. It does.
So what exactly
There's
is
so
the
many,
point here? If I was not...
in statistics, maraming confounding
Yes.
factors. But when it comes to the anti-political dynasty bill, do you support that, considering you're also part of a political dynasty?
The anti-political dynasty bill.
Yeah.
Well, there are multiple versions of it. The thing is that what I do not support is not necessarily the bill itself, but rather the very limited scope of the bill. If you're banning political dynasties, you have to ban all of them. You can't just make certain provisions that allow certain types of political dynasties while banning other types of political dynasties, which is what I'm seeing, because it's only limited to the
Parents, I think second
yes,
degree
parents,
of consanguinity and affinity.
Second degree of consanguinity, and that's too broad of a term. It allows way too many political dynasties to continue.
Oo,
And
so
one
you're
that's-
willing pala kahit larger,
Yes,
the other versions that allow up to fourth degree of consanguinity and affinity. But your brother is vice mayor. Okay lang sa'yo kung
Yeah,
this
they
will
all get
prevent...
removed.
Oo, okay lang sa'yo?
Less political rivals.
Paano kung ikaw yung sabihin nila mag-step down? Okay lang sa'yo?
We'll be fighting.
So hindi ka magba-back down?
Yes, I won't back down, not even against my own family or allies. That's just how it is.
You
And
seem to
only
be-
the strongest will remain.
So you think you're stronger than your brother?
Yes, we'll all just have, if the political dynasty bill were to pass, we'll all just be in a cage match, and the one who leaves will be the remaining member of the Versaga family in politics.
Pumayag na ba yung kapatid mo dyan? Alam niya na yan?
No.
Well, back in 2022, your father, who was then NUP President si Elpidio Barzaga, he publicly endorsed Leni Robredo in a rally. And in that same rally, you chanted BBM, 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 and then you called for people to vote for him.
Yes. And it was successful because Marcos won by 200,000 votes in
Sa
Cavite, which is
Cavite.
100K higher. I mean, in Dasma,
Yeah.
which is 100K higher than Lenny did. Back then, in 2016, they actually kind of tied with Marcos winning by a few thousands. Now he won by a large margin.
And you think it's because of your endorsement?
Well, yes. Because the rest of my team during the 2022 elections actually campaigned for the Robredos, for Robredo Duterte instead of Marcos Duterte. And they had a very strong political machinery as just posting online, but we still won.
Yeah. But yung ganun ba, pinaalam mo sa parents mo, and should Leni Robredo, for example, run in 2028, would you endorse her like your father did?
I already declared my endorsement for Vice President Sara Duterte. So I don't think I'll be endorsing Leni Robredo.
So you're very strong in terms of deciding for yourself. Like back then, kahit iba yung in-endorse ng parents mo, you don't mind charting your own path.
Yes.
And in October 2025, you announced that you plan to file impeachment proceedings against President Bongbong Marcos back then. What changed? Kasi yun nga, naging BBM supporter ka, and you were even Deputy Majority Leader to Sandro Marcos. So, ngayon ba, are you in speaking terms with former Speaker Martin Romualdez and Majority Leader Sandro Marcos?
I don't see them in Congress, and they don't see me in Congress recently because I've been suspended. So I can't really comment on that because we do not speak outside of Congress.
So, no personal friendships.
No.
Pero ano nag-trigger for you to change alliances? Like you were a BBM supporter despite your father having a different stance. Bakit nagbago?
Also, I previously stated I think it was also here in the interview, it started when the party and Martin Romualdez accused me of soliciting votes to change the speakership, where I was just minding my own business. And so I thought that, well, if they were going to do that, it's better for me to just leave the party and withdraw my support for the current administration.
So dun pala nag-start yun. You've also had several public spats back and forth with Palace Press Officer Undersecretary Claire Castro.
Yes, but everyone had conflict with Claire
Yeah.
Castro. You could practically say that to a random Filipino citizen and they would agree.
Na meron din silang
Yes.
spat with
that they have a conflict with PCO Claire Castro because everyone's angry at her.
Well, you have a lot of followers and admirers. So, out of curiosity, what do you think is Yusek Claire Castro not doing right? At ano naman yung mga, kung meron man, in your opinion, tamang ginagawa niya? But before you answer this question, we'll have to take a short break.
Short break.
At the forefront, we'll be right back. Congressman Kiko, kanina pinag-uusapan natin, you've had several public spats with Undersecretary Claire Castro, who's a Palace Press officer. And sabi mo, marami rin naman galit kay Yusek Claire. But you have a lot of followers and admirers. You're very social media savvy. What do you think is Yusek Claire not doing right from your personal point of view? And what is she doing right naman, if any?
It's not necessarily what she's doing right. It's from a legal perspective. From a legal perspective, if you're a lawyer and you had one of the worst clients possible, like he committed multiple crimes and he's not bothering to hide them, or something similar to that sort, how do you defend such a person? So from Yusek Claire's current situation, it's very hard to decide what you could be doing right because she has to defend the current administration, which is so filled with controversies and scandals that it's basically impossible for her to defend.
So it's not so much that yung pag sinasabi mong maraming galit kay Yusek Claire or marami siya nakakaaway, it's because of her difficult position having to defend this administration. What about...
And she has to defend practically every decision and every issue. And at the same time, she has to find a way to justify the decisions made by the administration. So, for example, in the impeachment case, she has to find a way to justify Congress supporting, prioritizing an impeachment over the fuel crisis, or the administration prioritizing the impeachment over the fuel crisis. And that's a very hard thing to do. Like, not even the best lawyer could defend a client who is acting in such a manner.
Pareho kayong, one of the things that you have in common is pareho kayong nag-vlog with Yusek Claire kahit na Palace Press officer siya. she still has her personal blog. Do you think that's helpful when it comes to, performing her role? Kasi kahit na personal blog niya, baka that might be perceived as speaking on behalf of the administration.
Yes, because you can't really separate yourself from your work. The people ideally see that once they're finished with work, or once Congress is done, or once they're back at home, they're back to their personal lives. But it's not the case for politics. We do not get personal lives. That's part of the sacrifice you make in order to be able to influence national policy in such a way that you're capable of helping or hurting so many people.
When the ethics complaints were filed against you last year, one of the posts that Deputy Speaker Ronnie Puno presented was your statement saying, why is there a Women's Month, but there is no Men's Month? Why do you want your men's to last for a month? What is your rationale for posting something like this?
It's the joke.
It's
funny.
supposed to be a joke.
Because
Okay.
men's could be translate. Men's is a shortened term for menstruation, which is the. It's a very long explanation for that, but the cycle for women for their reproduction.
So people,
Yes. So the during menstruation, women suffer plenty of. They have plenty of symptoms that are not necessarily desirable.
I
I don't have to
understand
explain
what
to
you're
you.
saying. Okay.
You understand
So it was
exactly
meant
what
to
I'm
be
saying.
a joke.
Yes.
Pero did you mean to disrespect women? Don't you feel na yung mga gantong posts ay makaka-offend ng mga babae?
Well, firstly, it's not applicable under the Ethics Committee. Well, it's their interpretation of it, but it was made prior to me assuming my role as a sitting congressman. So,
So hindi ka pa nasa Congress that time?
yeah, firstly, based on that alone, it's already in question. It already can be questioned because I was not a congressman when I made that post. And whether such an action could be made. Like, for example, could you be held accountable for previous actions you made prior to being
before
member
you're
of the House of
incumbent.
Representatives?
Yes, oo.
That's something that could be questioned already.
Yeah, I think in the both Senate and House, it has to be for actions that pertain to your function as a sitting member of the House of Representatives or Senate. So, meron ka na
Just
bang...
prior to the elections.
So, prior to the elections
Yes.
yun. Pero pagka ganyan ba, meron ka na bang post na pinagsisihan mo na, I shouldn't have said that, or it wasn't a tasteful joke? Meron ka na bang mga naging moments na ganun?
Not really.
Wala pa.
Because it's not like the...
And I'm speaking beyond
Yes.
this type of post, ha? Like in general, meron ka na bang na-regret na post mo?
Not really also. Because it's also about, what's the proper way to word it? There are other congressmen who did much worse things that are not being punished, like the one I previously stated in the previous interview about Richard Gomez assaulting a senior citizen. And these sorts of issues clearly show that there is a political aspect to the filing of the ethics complaint.
So for you, feeling mo, pinapersonal ka? Or when you started speaking out against the administration, as you said earlier, that's what you say is the cause for your suspensions?
And it's not a feeling because it is something that could be observed in a pattern. So you can see various other congressmen being involved in other issues yet not being prosecuted by the ethics committee. But you can see those, you can see opposition congressmen being prosecuted for much more minor issues that are being suspended by the ethics committee.
How does your family react when you get entangled in controversies?
They
Particularly your mom. Anong sinasabi
They
niya?
didn't like it at first, but now at this point they're kind of used to it.
So your mom, anong sinasabi ng mom?
Yeah, it's been 6 months. No, okay lang. Ganun lang.
Okay lang. Hindi niya pinapagalitan?
Well, she
or-
tells me to stop, but like I'm not stopping for that.
So would you say you're stubborn? Nakikinig ka ba? Dati, when your father was still alive, it seems like you followed his footsteps when you also ran in Congress. Siya ba ang pasabi sa'yo? Sino between your parents ang kaya kang pagsabihan na pinapakinggan mo?
No, I do whatever I believe is right. And sometimes, well, it's part of growing up that you have to accept that your parents are capable of making mistakes as well and capable of not making the right decisions. And sometimes when I believe that I'm doing the right decision while what they would choose is the wrong decision, I would do what I believe is right.
So you're really independent. Paiba-iba yung mga nakikitang babae sa mga posts mo sa social media. So may mga nagtatanong, what's the status of your love life right
Single
now?
and ready to mingle. Meow.
Meron pang translation din sa cat language. So are you the marrying type?
Marrying?
Oo. So
no.
do you see yourself settling down and getting married in the future? Bagay,
No, not
bata ka pa
really.
naman.
Because marriage, there are plenty of issues there as well, and I can't focus on the marriage right now. And I don't think I'll be focusing on that in the future.
Not in the future?
Not even in the future. Because it's much more convenient not to be married than to be married right now.
How many cats do you have?
20 plus.
20 plus? Oh
20
my
plus.
goodness. Alam mo, di ba sa mga babae, meron silang stereotype that if you grow up to be an old maid, so single, hindi kasal, tapos marami kang pusa, tawag nila cat lady. So hindi ka ba natatakot na ikaw magiging
I'm a
catman?
I'm a catman. Actually, natakot ako na hindi ako magiging catman because I want to be a catman in the future.
Okay, so last year you reportedly failed to appear in your ethics hearing because you stayed up late playing computer games. Is this an exaggeration, or do you still?
Oh no, I
really
actually do stay up late all the time playing computer games,
Up to
especially now
now.
considering that I'm suspended. So I have plenty of time to stay up
Okay,
late.
so
playing
last
computer
question,
games.
how do you address criticisms that you're too immature to be holding a post in the House of Representatives?
Oh, who exactly is saying that?
Yung mga tao na nagsabi, oh, temo, nagko-computer game siya ng up to late, di ba?
Well, regarding criticisms, whatever you do, you would have your own critics, and you have people that will criticize you for it. If you stay up late playing computer games, you'll be criticized. If you meow meow, you'll be criticized. If you criticize Romualdez or Marcos, you'll be criticized. If you don't criticize them, you'll be criticized as well. So whatever option you make, there would be someone who is against that option. So it's impossible to address them all. If they don't like it, then they are free not to vote for me. But I would continue to do what I believe is right, and I will continue to do what I believe to be the most efficient in combating the corruption that I see. And part of that's playing video games at night.
Oh, and just be yourself. When your term ends in 2028, will you run again or pursue a different career?
Well, that depends on how my term ends and on what the situation would be. I'm not sure whether I would be running for Congress again, or if I would be running again, or for governor, vice gov, mayor, anything. I do know that by 2028, I will be campaigning for Vice President Sara Duterte because I already announced that. But as per the political aspirations, I have not announced anything yet, so I have no actual plans. I have plans on who I will be supporting for 2028. I will, of course, be supporting my allies who has helped me, but at the same time, I'm not sure of what would be my plans for 2028.
Thank you so much, Congressman Kiko, and we hope to have you back here again
Meow.
soon.
Yeah, I'm always free, suspended until May 2026. Meow.